Okay, Tony, I want to do a quick recap of your lesson from today. First of all, I just want to say, you did an amazing job. Saw light years of change in your golf swing today, and it's just kind of a testimony to how good of an athlete you are. But I've got two pictures up there. The first one is video of your swing before any instruction was given, and the one on the right is actually a video of the flying wedge drill that I put you in. I want to talk a little bit about the setup changes that we made first, because this video is kind of a reminder for you to sort of take with you and work on these things. But starting from the ground up, the first thing you'll notice is that I had you flare your feet out about 20 degrees. And this, again, the reason for that is because it helps facilitate more of a linear motion, more of making it easier to sort of slide your hips toward the target and bank your right foot. We also went ahead and exaggerated sort of more weight on your left side here in this drill. I think you'll remember I had you put about 70 to 75% of your weight on your left side versus your natural address position. There really was more of a 50-50 weight distribution. If you take a look at the box that I've drawn on the screen, starting down around your ankles and extending up toward the top of your head, you can see at the picture on your left, your body mass is sort of confined within that box. But the picture on your right, you'll see substantially more of your body. Almost your entire left leg, shin, hip, left arm, sort of hanging outside of that box. That is an indicator of how much more weight you have forward. You're also going to notice that you have more forward shaft lean at address. We talked about all the reasons why forward shaft lean is important. In the golf swing, and particularly at impact. So I want to go ahead and play the video on the left through from start to finish so you can just kind of see what that motion looked like. And then we'll take a look at the swing on the right and do sort of a comparison. So as I kind of analyzed the swing on the left, a couple things stuck out to me. We talked a lot about this during your lesson, so this is just kind of a refresher. But number one, the biggest thing was, your sort of lateral sway off of the golf ball, where the weight transferred into sort of your trail leg. You can see, just how much by, the distance that's been created between your left side of your hip and then that box in the original start position there. It was probably 3 to 4 inches, not a big, not a whole lot, but this was causing a whole host of issues to occur in your golf swing and compensations to have to occur because of your low point moving back. We talked a lot about, when your low point moves back, your brain is going to subconsciously take over and start to make compensations to find a way to get the head of that club down onto the golf ball. And in your case, there was a couple of things going on. Number one, if you take a look at how close, look at how close your elbows are together at address. Your arms are hanging, really, really nicely down. Your elbows are not bent, arms are relatively straight. But when we return you back to sort of the impact position, you'll see quite a difference there. You'll see, the elbows are bending and starting to separate, and that distance is increasing. But also, you were really, really violently sort of flipping your hands through impact, where your right wrist was your right hand was just sort of taking over, and your left wrist was sort of bending back. Well, from that position, we were having a really difficult time. Number one, controlling the path. The path was, 3 or 4 degrees to the left, sort of coming across the ball, and that weight back, motion sort of facilitates, the path coming across and to the left. To further illustrate just how rapidly your club face was closing and how much you were having to sort of rotate your hands through the shot, if you take a look at the frame that's up there now, P8 where the right arm is parallel to the ground, you can see how much on top of your left hand your right hand is. This is the absolute highest rate of closure with the club face, and this is why on one swing TrackMan would show you, having a face of say 2 degrees open, and on the very next swing you'd have the face, 5 or 6 degrees shut, and with a path slightly to the left. At times we were hitting, sort of a pull cut ball flight, and then the next swing you were hitting, pull hook. So, all of these things going on were really, really hindering you from being able to control your path and control your face angle. I now want to play the video on the right, which is that flying wedge drill that I put you in just from start to finish, so you can just kind of see what this motion looked like. But remember, the emphasis here was really just learning to turn our shoulders in a circle, right knee straightening, left knee flexing, keeping our arm straight and our low point in front of the golf ball, and arm straight all the way through impact. You could see a substantial difference in your impact position, much more flying wedge, much more flat left wrist at impact if we compare these two impact positions. You know, the video on the right, the golfer is hitting the ball with compression, and that's why you were seeing a substantial difference in your total distances on TrackMan. I think you commented on you couldn't believe how much further the ball was going, given you weren't swinging 50% of your normal capacity. The next frame I really want you to take a look at is just post impact, P7.5 right after impact, and I want you to notice the glaring difference between these two frames. Number one, the golfer on the left has really flipped and not retained any of his wrist angles. His elbows have started to separate prior to impact and are now just sort of coming back together. I also want you to notice the difference in the lower body in terms of how far the lower center of gravity, your tailbone, is toward the target versus the picture on the right. The golfer on the right, still has flying wedge, still has straight arms, has extension in his arms. But the reason why you're able to do that in the picture on the right is because you've maintained your low point. You've kept your centers forward, and your brain hasn't had a need to bend and flex those elbows, and therefore, you're actually able to hit the ball much further because you're hitting it with compression, and you're hitting it with a much wider radius. You have more speed there. So, kind of in closing here, Tony, you mentioned to me that you wanted me to teach you a draw bias pattern, or a pattern that would help you hit draws more efficiently. And that's sort of what we worked on today. So I just kind of want to recap the components or the pieces that go into being able to hit a draw consistently. Number one, the weight forward, handle leaning forward, feet flared out. In your backswing motion, and I'm looking at the video on the right now. In your backswing motion, remember the sort of the sequence was the left shoulder down, left arm in tight across the chest. One of the reasons why I had you hit balls with tees under your arms was to keep that connected feeling. Left arm working in, because remember, we have to be in order to hit out. Remember, in the downswing, the downswing starts from the ground up, so sort of a transition of the left knee, left hip pushing forward, arms remaining dead straight. Flying wedge is retained, not consciously, but because your lower center is moving forward, and your core, your upper torso, is turning. The second that your core stops turning, centrifugal force is going to force those wrist angles to sort of dump. And the longer that we maintain those wrist angles, the longer that we can actually hit out at the golf ball. Just sort of, tie in your TrackMan numbers. Before we started, your club path was significantly to the left, 3 or 4 degrees to the left. Your face was sort of varying from open 2 degrees to shut 5 or 6 degrees. But here at the end of the lesson, if you remember, your swing path was 4 to 5 degrees out to the right every single swing, and your club face you were controlling with pretty much precision. 1 to 1.5 to 2 degrees open. And you're hitting the ball with so much more compression because of the forward shaft lean and your ability to keep your arms dead straight. Awesome job with your very first lesson. You got loads of talent. I look forward to working with you again in the future. Give me a call if you have any questions about any of this.